Thank you so much, Autumn. Well, since coming into office, the Trump administration has sought out different ways to carry out mass deportations, including going deep into the history playbook. And our Catalina Villegas is talking with an expert this morning to help us understand these policies and also their impact. Kat.
Yeah, that's right, Cal. From the Alien Enemies Act to designating groups and organizations as foreign terrorist organizations, we have really a lot to cover today. And we're now joined by University of Tampa Professor Abigail Hall. Her research focuses on issues related to defense, war, terrorism, and peace. Her work includes the economics of propaganda and the impacts of foreign policies on domestic institutions. Thank you so very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So, Professor, the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is usually a wartime law, but we are not at war with any country. Why and really how is this being used right now?
So this is not the first time that the Alien Enemies Act has been used within the context of detaining, moving, or deporting foreign nationals from the United States. It was used in the War of 1812, in World War I, and then probably most prominently in World War II. This was the law that allowed for the internment of Japanese nationals and individuals of Japanese descent. Now, this is different because, as you pointed out, this law is a wartime law, and here it is being used in the context of peacetime. Now, in the discussion surrounding the use of the Alien Enemies Act, the Trump administration has said that they are treating Tren de Aragua, or this Venezuelan gang, as an invading force.
And that really is the key phrase there, invading force, right? That invasion is really part of the act and how that that process works. And tell us a little bit more about the Alien Enemies Act and specifically how it amplifies presidential powers and what it does for these potential invaders or foreign enemies.
Yeah, so here, and one of the things that we're seeing within this broader discussion about the Alien Enemies Act and its use in the case of these Venezuelan nationals is whether or not what the president is doing is actually legal. Immigration, legal or illegal, does not equate to an invasion. And so we're already seeing, and I think gearing up for a longer term political and particularly a legal fight about what exactly is allowable and not allowable under contemporary law. What's interesting here is that there's not an actual need, as far as I can see, for deploying the Alien Enemies Act specifically. Existing immigration law allows for U.S. officials to detain and deport individuals who are not permanent residents, who are not U.S. citizens. And so the use of this act here is interesting, but I think really amplifies and matches some of the broader rhetoric surrounding immigration, and particularly this narrative that you have this massive influx of a criminal element coming in through the U.S. southern border.
Definitely, that has been an important talking point of the Trump administration since the campaign. Talk to us a little bit about the risks that come with using tools meant for foreign affairs or for war during peacetime and to address domestic issues, specifically the issues of immigration. What precedent does that set for future administrations?
So there is a really typical scenario that we see throughout history, this idea of scapegoating the foreign or the other, blaming various social issues on these types of outgroups that have migrated. So right now we're focused particularly on Venezuela and individuals from Venezuela who are supposedly, correctly or incorrectly, associated with this gang. In 2016, the Trump administration was, or particularly focused on MS-13 from El Salvador. But if you want to go back further in history, we could talk about Chinese opium gangs. We could talk about Colombian drug cartels in the 1980s or the 1990s. So this is really a continuation on trends that we have seen before. But this is different in terms of, A, the scale, but also this very highly publicized use of this act, which again is something that is utilized and intended to be confined to times of war.
Right. But the Trump administration argues that they need to invoke this wartime law in order to address some of the rise in illegal immigration that we've seen into the country in recent years. Professor Abigail Hall, expert in defense, war, and peace, thank you so much for your time. We'll continue this really interesting conversation with you a little bit later in the show. For now, Calv, tossing it back to you.
All right, great conversation there. Thank you so much, Catalina. We appreciate it.